Hi, everybody. Welcome to DomainSherpa, and thank you for tuning into the podcast with the best domain name and digital asset content in the world. Today's episode is a Sherpa short titled Timing is Everything, featuring Drew, Chris, and Sofia, who's appearing for the first time as a member of the MediaOptions team. For today's show, we introduce Sofia in her new role, and we also talk about some recent online chatter regarding domains and social media handles and how some conversations are better off not happening on the internet. We also talk about .com domains versus other extensions, the importance of timing when dealing with market trends, and the key questions you need to ask buyers and sellers in a domain deal. All that and more is coming up on today's show. And remember, if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, you can also watch the video version at DomainSherpa.com and on our YouTube channel at ds.tv. You can also listen to the shows on Apple and Spotify and other podcast platforms as well. So please make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button and all that good stuff everywhere that you can and help Domain Sherpa grow the pie. We also integrate our shows with Muse.ai, which provides search functionality for the shows and transcripts as well. And big shout out to Unstoppable Domains, the only ICANN accredited registrar that lets you trade DNS domains on chain and access crypto investors. With 3% commissions at cost renewals and hundreds of resellers soon to be integrated, they're a cutting edge marketplace you need to know about and use to get more sales and keep costs down. Unstoppable can save you thousands in registration costs. They've got $5 .com Fridays and $5 off all transfers in. No promo code required. And new shout out to escrow.com. Here at MediaOptions, we've relied on escrow.com for years. They've handled some of our biggest deals, including 7- and 8-figure transactions. We use their specialized domain services because they understand domains. As the largest online licensed and audited escrow operator, escrow.com is fast, secure, and accountable with workflows built specifically for domains. Whether you're buying your first domain or closing on $1 million deal, they protect buyers and sellers around the world from fraud while ensuring smooth transfers every time. Escrow.com, domain deals done right. And also, big shout out to our own business, MediaOptions, the #1 domain brokerage in the world. Find out more at MediaOptions.com, where you can also sign up for our newsletter for the best domain opportunities available in the market every week, and also featuring key insights and other helpful information related to branding, naming, and domain investing. Last but not least, we've got some upcoming domain conferences to mention. NamesCon Global coming up November 5th and 6th in Miami. Go to namescon.com for more information and to register. Use coupon code DS20 to get 20% off the ticket price. On the topic of domain conferences, the ICA has their annual member meeting coming up January 15th to the 17th at the Park MGM in Las Vegas. Go to ica.vegas for more information, and we'll see everybody there as well. All right, with all that, it's now time to get into this episode of Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, a.k.a. JT, a.k.a. Jay On, a.k.a. Sherpa Winfrey, and I'm the host and producer of Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today's show is a Sherpa Short. That's where we usually pick a domain topic, some current events or whatnot. We dig in a little bit, and with that, I'll dive right into the introductions. Over to my right, we got my boy Andrew Rosner, a.k.a. Morpheus, a.k.a. the Dirk Diggler of Digital Assets, a.k.a. Bob Lee Swagger, the Sniper, a.k.a. Drew. Drew got what I need, a.k.a. every Rosner has its thorn, a.k.a. never going to give Drew up. Get Rick Roll, Graybeard, the domain pirate in the building. What's up, man? How are you?
I am very good. My summer travels have basically concluded. I think the summer was way too fast and too short. I would like an extension. I'm gonna take a bogey. But on the other hand, it was a very productive summer from a business standpoint, which is not expected. So, to some degree, I'm the rest of you won't agree, but not even wanted. I really do like to just kind of do nothing. And that was definitely not the case this summer. But I am good. I'm glad to be, back in the saddle. I'm playing catch up to a large extent. But pipelines, hot, everything's moving. Money printer, go burr. Things are, I look. I think we're basically on the precipice. We're basically we're walking the plank, right? We got this diving board. It's like a freaking 20-meter diving board, and we're like, we got a couple more steps before we hit the end of that diving board. And then what happens on a diving board? You go up and then you go down, and then you go splat. So, um,
All right. Well, I like
just
that
go
you
down,
invented a new
go
word.
walking the plane.
I
Huh?
like it because, well, you kind of invented a new word, right? The word precipice is the word which means, I think, the edge, but the word precipitous means dangerously high or steep. So you kind of said the precipitous or something, whatever you had said was
Precipitous.
basically we're at a dangerous edge, is basically what you just, that's it, man. You know what I'm saying? I like it. I
Listen,
like
this is
it.
what I do. This is what I
Yeah,
do. It's who I am.
that's it. Hey, look, we would have it
So
no other
anyways, it's
way.
all good. And we sold a bunch of names and domains are selling
Birds flying
and
high. You know how I feel.
they birds
So.
flying high. You know how I feel.
It
That's it.
is. So no,
That's
I'm
it.
with it, man. That's good stuff.
Mentally gearing up. I'm gonna go for a sober October. So y'all just, be prepared for that because it's gonna come in hot in October.
I'm happy for you. I'm not happy for the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? So it's just think about the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like what you doing, you know? But no, all good. That's gonna be great, man. Looking forward to that. Maybe we'll all participate, a little sober October. As I get older, honestly, I'm more sober every day anyway, So it's just part of healthy living, man. I'll tell you, alcohol is poison. That's where I'm at, to be honest.
That's it for sure.
It's just I don't know that I think I'm past the point of benefits, and
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah, but I'm cutting out. I'm going all in. I'm going nothing. I mean, we're talking,
right.
I'm cutting out caffeine. You know what I mean? We're going into the deep end here.
Oh man, you gotta be careful in the deep end though. You know what happens in the deep end, you mess around, you
Listen,
might drown.
yeah, you got to take risk in life.
It is. Life is all about calculated risk, man. I'm with that. We say that a lot on the show. So, all right, well, good. So we're all looking forward to what is to come. We've got some interesting months coming up. We're getting into some, our busy season, but August has been pretty wild and very good. And so yeah, shout out to the team, shout out to our clients, shout out to our buyers, our sellers, everybody. And let's just keep it moving, man. That's it. Hard work, pays off, and it's all good. So, all right, well, let's keep it moving. Down to my lower right, I got my boy, the one and only Chris Zuiker, aka Zuiker's Island, aka World War Z, aka the Brand Whisperer, aka Zyke Tyson. What's happening, man? How you doing?
It's like Dyson. Busy. Like
Yeah,
woke up this morning, phone calls, a lot happening. So it's good. It's really good.
yeah. Well, and that's what I tell people too when they're like, "Hey, how's work?" I'm like, "Oh, it's really busy," and they're like, "Oh, that sucks." I'm like, "No, actually, it's awesome."
Yeah, it's
So
good. I mean,
it's
listen,
like,
momentum is good, especially
that's
with
the one.
negotiating. I mean, I forget who said it. Maybe it was Chris Voss, but negotiation is a perishable skill. And the more you get into negotiations, the more you refine it, the subtleties of it, the pushback. So all good, but I think that probably in the last 3 weeks we've seen a major uptick in responses, major uptick in people just responding back to us. So I think that's a trend we can talk about later.
Yeah. Hey, the trend is your friend, and negotiation.
Trend
It's
is
like
your
a
friend.
muscle.
Is the trend your friend? That's what you gotta say.
It
Listen,
is
there's a
the
lot of
trend, your
people
friend.
that the trend ain't gonna be their friend in a couple months from now. Like they don't.
Well,
I need to do my
yeah,
post where I say, "Would you know the highest offer if it smacked you in the head?" Because it's amazing that a lot of people are passing on the highest offer.
yeah. Well, and unfortunately, I think we see that Drew says it, sell into the wave, right? That's another thing we say on the show all the time. And you miss that opportunity, and sometimes that window gets shut, man. And then that's it's that best offer, and then that's it. Never to be seen again. So all good. All right. Well, let's keep it moving. And last but certainly not least, on the show again in a different capacity, which we'll get into, we got the one and only Sofia Canala, aka Sofia Vergara, aka the Queen of Domainers, aka the Golden Girl, aka Sophia the First, aka So Fly, aka So Deaf, aka So Be It, So Be It. Officially, Sophia is now part of the Media Options team. So I guess we're making that announcement. Billy, hit us with some fireworks. Hit us with some flair. Let's get it. Yeah, welcome. Obviously, you have been a key part of our team, even not officially being part of our team, when you were with Escrow. By the way, shout out to escrow.com. But now over on this side of the fence, like with the Island of Misfit Toys, and so how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. You're busy because now you are guys paying me. So, anyways, but yeah, I mean, everything's good. I don't have much to say, to be honest. It's just like
Yeah, hey, that's
I'm
what it is.
not
We just
traveling the world like your bull friend over here who's like
uh
going on vacation every single fucking day. But I will be soon, so that's exciting.
hey, we're just here to carry. I'm here to carry Drew's luggage. You know what I mean? So that's basically what it is. Um, but it's all good. It's all good. I'm the most well paid valet in the world. But I'll take it. So real quick, just a quick question. Now that kind of not to put you on the spot, but now that you've sort of you've moved over and is it what you expected? Are you surprised by just some of the inner workings now that you kind of got? I mean, you've known us pretty well for a while, and obviously known the way our businesses work. So, has it been a pretty? I mean, it
I would
seems
say
to
I
me.
actually spoke to Sophia more than I spoke to most of you, maybe JT, but like I spoke to Sophia more than pretty much anybody on my team.
Yeah, that is actually true. Um, no, I'm not surprised. I don't think that anything that I've seen so far surprises me. I think I've known you guys for like three years, maybe 4 years. I don't know. And as Drew said, we spoke every single day. Um, except when he was on vacation or maybe I was taking leave or whatever. But for those, little exceptions here and there, it was like every day, and I felt part of your team, even though I was obviously working for Espo.com. You always were great in that sense, and I was very honest in like your success was our success because Escrow needs their clients and the clients need Escrow. So, I 100% think that I don't know, I was excited to be part of your team back then. I'm excited to be part of your team today. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's good stuff. And what's cool about us is obviously we're a small team. We're all distributed. We're all over the world. But we all work well together and we make it work. It's what we do. It's a cool. What about that? What about the switch from a more corporate environment? I mean, I remember that in the first couple of days,
Very different.
you're like, well, what about this? I'm like, we don't do that. You're like, well, what about that? No, that's not a
Yeah.
thing here. That
What's
doesn't.
MediaOptions vacation policy?
Yeah, it's like,
There is no policy. It's exciting.
The policy
um,
is very simple. You do whatever you want as long as you get done everything that I want. Outside of that, do
yeah.
you.
Well, that is one thing that I'm still trying to get used to because it's not just Desco, but I had previous jobs as well that were also very corporate, and there was policy for everything. And now it's like, well, so what do you expect me to do in this stage, or what do you expect to receive or whatever? And that those kind of conversations we don't have those here. So I mean,
Off that.
yeah. And it is, look, and I get it, it can be challenging at times, especially when, kind of the way you described it. It's like everybody has their own thing, and then we've all got this collective thing, but there are definitely parts and aspects to that are, very, sort of ambiguous or, it's kind of a rhythm thing. And obviously none of us being in the same place physically, creates some challenges, but obviously we work through all that stuff. And but I think that's also the beauty of it. It creates a lot of opportunity to tighten things up. When I started 5 years ago, I mean, it was when Chris started, it was a whole different thing. He got a lot of shit together. I got here a lot of stuff together. You're already getting things together in the first few weeks. It's obviously a lot of the work, Billy and Matthew. I mean, it's all good. It's good stuff.
well, but the fact that we're all so far away from each other, and sometimes we're in different, like, I don't know, Drew's in fucking Italy enjoying the views, and then
What
we're
time
here
zone's he on? That's the
doing the
question.
hard work. Yeah. So I think that it in a way, when we have the chance to be all together, I think it means more because when I was working at Escrow.com and my team was literally sitting in front of me, it was so much different. Like we were always together and they could always reach out to me for absolutely anything. But then being unavailable is also part of the fact that it is part of the job. It has to be part of the job. It has to be part of you managing a team. It has to be part of you managing stuff. Your people have to learn to basically cope with the fact that you're unavailable. Um, So that's also important. I think it makes the getting together more meaningful in the business perspective. And
Yeah, and and that
you guys are
yeah,
not
two
too bad to work with. So
yeah. Well, two things on that. One, I think that you're right. I think it sort of forces you to be more independent. It, creates agency, which I think is very important. It makes people forces them to be more capable. And I think all those are positives. And it definitely does then put a premium on when we get an opportunity to gather up on, we did our offsite in Miami where we got on the boat with Rick and Birkins and Slavic. And, it definitely makes that more special. It makes the names cons, the ICA meetings, like all that stuff, very good opportunities to gather up. And then also too, it's one of the beautiful things about the domain space in general is that if you can, get a situation like we have it, like you can be anywhere. And, Shane really kind of he pounds that drum all the time on the show, talking about, how domains create this really amazing sort of environment to be able to do it the way we do it. And yeah, and that's what's up. So all right, well let's get into some stuff. Let's talk about just generally on Sherpa Shorts, like I mentioned at the outset. We sometimes we'll be interviewing folks, third parties, if you will, or we'll pick a topic or two to kind of dig into. Does anybody have anything in particular that they want to dive into initially here, or I've got some topics and things. Drew, Chris.
We keep it real. That question that I had. Do you want
I
you want to
mean,
go there still, or was that a
I was
momentary
waiting for
like
that.
fizzle?
No, I mean, look, I shout out to fellow domain Sherpa, Domain Shane. You know what I'm saying? He's getting burned at the stake today on Twitter, and just want to give him a shout out, let him know that people love him, and you know,
hey man,
but
it
look, sometimes people have ideas and they make the mistake of putting them out there publicly before thinking through what the implications of those ideas might be. And something like X or Twitter is literally the town square. It's a place for sharing ideas above all else. And so, look, was it bad judgment? Probably. I think everybody just needs to take a goddamn chill pill and just live their freaking life. Everybody gets this what's that German word where they love to see people like suffer?
Schadenfreude or whatever.
Schadenfreude. Yeah,
Yeah.
Schadenfreude. Like there's no place like X for Schadenfreude. And so, people are just they just love to watch people burn.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm guilty as charged.
Are you though? I mean, like, let's be
No,
careful
not really.
before,
I'm really not.
I mean,
Except for
that's the
like
thing.
a
I,
handful of
I
people.
understand we want to commiserate and talk a little bit about, hey, like, sometimes we've got to get creative trying to contact buyers, sellers, whatever, facilitate deals and stuff. But I think that it's interesting because, like, and I mentioned, Shane is a friend and he is a Sherpa and it's really all good. And, there'll be an opportunity on, the next time he's on here, if it's still something even worth talking about. Things have a tendency to just fizzle out these days. The news cycles are extremely short and people's attention spans are even shorter. But this idea of like, oh, hey, when I get a domain, I go try to find other accounts and things that are tied to it. I think you definitely start to get into a weird gray area, slippery slope where it's like a question about, you know, other people's rights and other people's property, right? And I think that's where the real thing comes into, where it's like talking about this idea of using a domain name to then go use an email to then get access to these other accounts, right? And obviously, and somebody pointed out on, in this back and forth exchange that that's actually the method that scammers will use. We used to see it at Network Solutions all the time, where people would go get, some worthless email or domain name because there was an email on that domain tied to a much more valuable domain, and then using that as a way to go and effectively hijack a domain name that they did to have no rights to go claim, right? And then now, but when you enter into different things talking about X handles, right? I think now there's a whole conversation probably to be had around what are the rights with respect to an X handle, right?
Yeah.
And I
Now,
think that
look, I haven't done the legwork to go look at what are the actual statutes around these, digital fraud and, how does it apply to domains versus some social media handle that's not property or even really a contract right. So I think, putting all the actual law aside and looking at it from the lens as JT described, of you know, just a conversation. It is an interesting conversation because if there is a handle, like let's just use a very generic example. We own, I don't know, let's say Pegasus.com. Okay. So, you've got Pegasus.com, let's say it was a company. Okay. And so you got Pegasus, I don't know, logistics, and they've got an X handle at Pegasus, and they go out of business or they get bought. Let's use the example, they actually go out of business. So company goes bankrupt, goes out of business, shut down, liquidated, BUP doesn't exist anymore. Domain expires, somebody else buys it. Now you've got, what you could call stranded property, right? You've got this X handle that, contractually speaking, by the terms of service, are owned by the controller of that email address. Okay, that email address is actually the controlling entity. It's for all intents and purposes, it's the public key for accessing that handle, right? Now, it is an interesting and intellectual conversation to me that I think probably applies to a lot of our laws. And again, I don't even know what our current statutes are in regard to this. But if what Michael Sumner, perhaps overexpressed on X is true, and this would be like, 4 felonies and a cupcake, then I think it is actually probably worth, those laws being reexamined as they apply to things like this, because why should that at Pegasus handle that was previously associated with a company that was on the Pegasus.com domain name, and now that domain name is gone, the controlling email on the account is null and void. They're in effect, in reality, there is now no longer any, nobody owns a handle on any of these platforms, but in effect, there's now no controlling or even administrative entity for that handle. And so it should have a recycling mechanism that allows it to go back into the wild, either through the platform or through other means, such as he who controls the domain controls the handle. I have actually been, the reason this is even interesting to me beyond just surface level is because it's something I've discussed and I've thought about for a very long time. Jack Dorsey, even though he doesn't fully grasp, what a great domain is, and he always uses these bullshit domains, he does understand that domain names are ultimately like the bridge between, in the same way that Bitcoin is a bridge between the digital world and the physical world. Domain names are the bridge between the physical world and the digital world as pertains to information, where Bitcoin is as pertains to, value. So it makes sense to me that a domain name, he who has the .com, should ultimately have either a priority or an optionality, some kind of mechanism to prioritize their access to the social media handles, because I think it's a bilateral benefit to both. I think it's beneficial to the domain and it's beneficial to the platform, because then they can have some form of consensus on, well, who should have this, right? Is it always just who is willing to pay the highest price? Or, and this is something that, whatever, that's what I can't get into, but
Yeah.
these are really very real conversations that I say are happening at platforms to try and figure this out, is who should own these handles, right? And then what are they worth? And then under what mechanism can somebody resell it? And then these are important questions that have not really been addressed in the marketplace yet. The marketplace of ideas and commerce. And so I think there's more to it than people are making out. And I think it's unfair to just,
Well, and I think, right. And I think
bad
that's
judgment on Shane's part to be like, hey,
Well, yeah, and I
What do
think
you do when they lose access? I mean, like, it's tied to the domain. They lost access to that. They can't even get into it. I mean, it's probably super circumstantial. I mean, stealing and fraud in anything is wrong. There's probably some circumstantial areas. I've got a bridge to get out of this if you want.
well,
If we're
we'll take that in a
if we're
second, but
done
I have
with
a
this.
couple of quick
Uh,
points because, I do think that, right, and fraud is fraud, right? And it's wrong and it's illegal, and it's a question of what's a violation of the law. You make a good point. Like, we have not done a deep dive into the statutes. I think there was some reference to the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which deals more with hacking, right? So it's this idea of diving into,
So
not
is
just
that hacking though? You know what I mean? Like,
well,
that's an
hold on. I'm going to
interesting
get there.
question.
I'm going to get there because I understand what you're saying, and I think there's an intellectual exercise here. And this is also why I said, look, don't be so quick to be like, oh yeah, this is all stuff we've all done. Because let's be clear, we're not. That's not standard practice, right? But I think that it's this idea of
In fact, let's just be clear that this is not a practice at all for us, and this is not something that we have ever engaged in or done.
thank you, because
And
I
so,
just want to be clear here because I don't want
just to be abundantly clear,
we have Shane's back, but at the same time, we're not saying like, no, it's cool, dog. We're all out here fucking
yeah,
doing
no.
gangster shit.
Listen, again,
but
I started this conversation saying, was it bad judgment from Shane? Yes, absolutely.
well,
But
and I think it's
the
bad
point
judgment
is that I
even
think it raises some interesting points and questions that
100%.
I think we missed the opportunity to have that discussion because everybody just wants to jump on board and throw rocks and
Well,
light
that's
a
what I
fire.
said. I think X is a bad place to go out there, and if he's engagement farming and he's like, "Hey guys, here's an idea where some things you could get into, like show more, click here," and it's like, "Oh, now you've opened this door because you've started this dialogue, and now it's like, and you have no opportunity to really engage in a discourse that really makes sense or clarify the record in a way that, you know, doesn't make you look as bad as maybe you do, right? And it's all good, right? I mean, and you're talking about Shane, who's literally published on his blog like every day for the past however many years. At some point, you run out of stuff to talk about, right? Like, so you're like, oh, let me talk about this, and then the next thing you know, you're getting this enormous blowback. And so when you're talking about social media handles, you have to remember, and this is my thing, is that the terms of service are going to ultimately govern, right? These are private companies that dictate what happens with the use of these things. So, now it's like, okay, well, what's a violation of their terms, and that is going to, in a lot of ways, dictate what's okay, not okay, right? And then, but even trumping that at a higher level is what is actually legal or illegal that's directly addressed by way of statute, rules, regulations, or what have you, right? And it's this sort of triangulation of all these things that kind of determine right and wrong. I do think that what Shane was addressing, and again, I don't want to put words in his mouth or whatever, but if you're talking about these abandoned accounts that have no current user, right? Then it's a question of, well, who has that right? Because then technically, if a handle's not
So that's
in
what
use,
I'm saying is you end up with these stranded things that technically there's no way for anybody to get to, right? If you're the legitimate person, you're cut off. Your bridge has been burned because you lost the domain, which controls the email, which is the ultimate controlling
or
public
if that person dies,
yeah.
the domain
well, yeah, but
doesn't
I think if you're still
register,
an
then you
active user and you
are
want to
Death
be
is different. Death, you present a death certificate to the platform, and then the platform has certain obligations, policies, etc.
But I think if you've got somebody who's an active user that wants to get access, that doesn't then mean, hey, you lost access, but yet you're still there and want to get access, that you then no longer have the right to it, right? That's almost more of a X problem, like, hey, make sure you have a path for people who lost access. But I'm talking about people who, like, to your point, it was a company thing, the company goes out of business, the handle's stranded, it's abandoned, these kinds of things that, no one's gone to even, like, how long do you have the right to continue to use a handle for once you go and claim it initially, right? I think X has their own policy about that, So, and then that all plays into that. And then they've got rights. So, and they have the ultimate say, the ultimate control. So, I think it's a very nuanced, there's layers to it, I guess, which is the thing. I feel bad that Shane kind of waded into it and kind of is getting beat up for it. I think that's the whole reason we're talking about it in the first place, and just saying, we have your back, dude. We're not going to get in and say right or wrong on this. I think there are definitely things that from an academic philosophy.
I mean, look, even
philosophical
Shane was
standpoint,
like, in hindsight, it was bad judgment. It's all good. I just wish everybody would take it down a notch, chill the fuck out, worry about your problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all selling less domains than me. That means you got problems. Worry about that. Go sell some fucking domains. You know what I mean? Chill the fuck out.
Well, and I will say, because then we got pulled in a little bit as well. It's like, look, we do have a direct relationship.
Don't get
with
out
that.
of pocket. Start bringing me in this because
Well, for what it's worth, we actually have a legitimate channel to help people get premium X handles. So it's like, so for anyone who needs some help with that, like holler at your boy, you know, because, you know, there is opportunity there because, you know, I think that all these platforms should be trying to get the handles in the hands of the best possible users. One point you made that I want to call out is in true .com maxi, you know, sort of form. You said, hey, if you got the .com, you should get all the social media handles. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's a funny, interesting argument in and to itself because it is like, who is the best user, right? Is it the .com?
obviously
Is
the
it who's going to
.com.
pay the most for it?
Everybody
Well,
else has got training wheels on.
well, that would be a pretty cool thing for .com domains and domains in general if there was policy established at any of the social media platforms
Listen,
saying, hey, anyone who has the .com has the first right.
Oh, by the way, you're a board member. I want you to bring this up at the ICA. If there
Oh,
was
good.
one single thing that the ICA could do to actually be productive, you guys could go lobby for VeriSign to make a deal with all of these platforms that he who has the .com has priority on the handle. What an amazing deal that would be that would drive unbelievable amounts of value to .com domain owners, which is ultimately the supposedly, you know,
Well,
goal.
I mean, I hear you, and that would be pretty. There's a lot of hair on that dog, but I think to your point about the ICA, first of all, the ICA does a lot of great stuff. You know, when you're like, oh, if the ICA could just do something. Like, first of all, the ICA is doing a lot of great work. Big shout out.
We love you, ICA.
And
JT.
so let me just put my ICA hat on.
About the result.
I'm going to represent for my team there, my people at the ICA, because they are my family. Yeah, but look, but I think that's a very interesting point and definitely something we could raise, which is, look, like, what is the role of VeriSign with the social media platforms as ways to figure out how there can be better synergy to establish some things around that? But I think it's tough to say from a blanket standpoint, .com gives you access to all. That's pretty crazy.
Yo, Facebook, we're going to cut you a check for like 50 mil a year, and you're going to just give priority to the .com owner. Like, Facebook, like, yeah, let's do that deal. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, you know, well, I mean, this is my point about this. This is a nuanced conversation that has many layers, and it needs a broader discussion.
We're throwing around ideas.
Oh, that's where I was gonna bridge out of this, right? Like, let's get out of. Here's the bridge, man. Let's
cross the bridge.
Like, truly, I'm done with the conversation. So all these new extensions, it's interesting. Two things I'm seeing. Like, I think, I look at probably 30 to 50 companies a day, AI, a lot of these companies are not going to exist in like 6 months from now. I see a lot of brand or a lot of startups branding, not just on the .ai, right? But like weird domains. You're like, how could you even, .me, .live, with like not even like the raw version and that, they're adding something in there. And it comes down, I I was struggling once. I was like, wow, like, how are they getting the money to brand on this? But the fundamentals of your domain equals your brand equity, right? It's like, they have to at some point create simplicity and clarity, if nothing else for site security, if nothing else for email security, right? Goal positioning. I think there's going to be a lot of business to be had. The ones that do survive, in like 2-3 years from now, because they're all going to need to upgrade at some point, because of that, that confusion they're creating. My thesis on this is that a lot of these companies they're stuck in direct response marketing, right? Hey, advertise, we get customers coming in, right? So that generation was built on that, but that only has so many legs, As soon as the algorithm changes, it's like, oh, hey, our cost for acquisition just got, just doubled or tripled, right? And the more confusion we create, the more, that goes up with the those algorithm changes. So I think it's an interesting trend. I was looking at a post here. It's like, let me get one here. .earth, perennial .earth. They raised 25 million,
Oh, dude,
they're on a .earth, But listen, email deliverability is huge, right? So it's like you can do that, but don't think you don't pay for that. And then, on the flip to that is that, your email deliverability. So I'm just trying to bring that back into the conversation. Like your domain does matter.
Oh, I think, look,
That's
here's
right.
what we've
Simple.
seen, because now that we've gotten a lot more involved with social media handles and some of that process and worked with some of those teams, and we're doing, and customers and clients and buyers and sellers and everything, there's no doubt that the appreciation and the importance of domains stands out. Even the more that we get into those scenarios, those deals, the value of those pieces of digital property, if they are even property, right, or access or accounts or whatever you want to call it.
Certainly not property.
Yeah, well, and that's it. Well, and even domains, right? Let's be clear. If we're going to talk from a legal standpoint, domains are effectively a contract right, right? I mean, they're not property; they're a contract right, and handles even further to that point, which are, and it's even a looser contract, because you're not even talking about some sort of a payment. What is the consideration on the part of the buyer if they're not paying for those rights in the first place? Renewals or registrations in the first place. So it's kind of like we joke around on the show and we're like, hey, if there's something you don't like about what we did on the show today, just hit us up and we'll give you a refund of what you paid to watch, right? It's like the same kind of thing. It's like, oh, we'll give you a refund of the $0 that you paid to initially claim this handle, right? This access to this account. So, but domains are without a doubt the most established, and when you talk about digital assets and digital rights, on the internet, not to mention it is literally your ground zero for all of your entire online presence. So, and we're seeing, I think, even more and more of a premium placed on domains and on .coms, even with this uptick in .ai and everything else. It's like, but all that still seems to kind of keep pushing more and more value and attention to .com domains, which people seem to get more and more locked in an understanding of the value and and the pricing and all that stuff. So.
Well,
Drew, you all right, man?
think
you look like you locked in. Is he frozen?
Froze.
I thought he froze on some straight up.
yeah,
Like, he had the
that was
serial
good.
killer face on for a
be
second.
meme.
I was like, shit, what'd I say? You know what I'm saying? Like,
You look like a deer in the headlights. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that comes down to I try to look at it from a logical standpoint, right? Because we talk to buyers all the time, like that just want to, either they're going to an extension or they're trying to move up. I was talking to someone today on a .me, and they're in security. I was like, listen, like you need this. And I go to the 7 dimensions, right? It's like, what dimension does this impact, right? It's like security and email security. It's like you're creating confusion. That confusion opens you up to phishing, right? Opens you up to being hacked because your consumers don't know, or your customers don't know, hey, it's a .me today, but maybe it's me.com, So like the simplicity. Customers reward simplicity, right? With trust, and trust is rewarded with conversion, right? And long term, So there's a logical reason to it, but it's also confusing because you see all these companies today just branding on anything, right? It seems like there's money being thrown out there, right? Like a .earth, You're like,
dude, if you're raising millions of dollars on a .earth, like we got to get developing our domain. You know what I'm saying? Like, so.
But there, it comes with an impact, right? So that was my main point is like,
Yeah,
I think
100%,
when I see this, there's a lot of opportunity out there. There's gonna be a lot of opportunity for sales in the future. And I think these companies are doing a massive disservice by not acquiring the raw version if it's available.
Yeah. No, and I think
At a
look,
good
I think
price.
a .ai is a great option if the .com is truly not obtainable and you're married to a brand. I mean, .orgs, we've talked about that. All that kind of stuff. I think that and we're
I
entering
don't
into
even rehash it, but look, dude, all of that is relevant if your time frame, your time horizon that you're evaluating is 12, 24 months. If your time horizon is more than that, I'm sorry. I really am. I know everybody doesn't agree with me. And I constantly, daily, I try to think about how am I wrong. But the fact of the matter is that I know I'm not. And if your time horizon for your company, for your brand is longer than 24 months, and you think that you're good with your .ai domain or anything else for that matter, I mean, you're literally picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, and I promise you that I'm going to, you're going to get eaten. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be a pancake and you're going to get eaten. That's it.
pancakes get eaten. You know,
That's it.
I like
You're
it.
going to get steamrolled into a
They say
pancake.
pigs,
And you're gonna
pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and pancakes get
Pigs-
eaten.
That's
You
it.
know what I'm saying?
It's true. It's true.
Oh.
I don't know how else to tell people. Like, we see this over and over and over and over and over, and nobody listens. They don't believe me, or I don't care anymore, to be honest with you. But the reality is, 80% of the companies that we engage with, over 80%, that say, nope, I don't want to spend the money. Nope, don't care. Nope, I'm good with my dot, whatever. 80% of those companies do not exist 5 years out. They're gone. Over 80%. However, nearly 80% still exist 5 years out if they did one of two things. Either they successfully got their exact brand match.com, or they made a true concerted effort to do so and maybe failed because it wasn't available, price was out of reach, whatever. Okay. But if you have a founder, and you can interpret this data however you wish, it's the data. Way I interpret it is that this is simply a proxy for founder, let's say, vision, okay, or founder capacity. Is this a founder that has short-term vision and they're looking for an acqui-hire? They're looking for, they're just focused on getting their next fundraising, or is it a founder who's focused on building a brand, building a company, building a lasting entity that will then go on to acquire other companies, not be acquired by a larger company? That's the difference in my mind. And so that's okay. If you are building something so that Amazon buys you in 3 years, then that's fine. Probably dog shit is fine for you. But if you are looking to be the next Amazon, if you want to be the next Facebook, if you want to be the next OpenAI, then you need a .com. Go back and go ask fucking Grok what happens to people that say this time is different, okay? They don't exist anymore. They're gone. They're gone from the market. They're gone from the business. They're gone from the
I think
over and over. This is a repeating process. Okay? So stop. Stop. It's not even a fucking discussion anymore. You people are stupid. There's .com, and then there's everything else. And the everything else is training wheels. That's all it is. There's nothing more there. Not .ai, not .net, not .anything. There's .com, and then there's training wheels. And training wheels are important. My kids rode bikes with training wheels until they could ride and balance and be big girls and boys. And then we took the training wheels off and they rode faster and further, right? And they could keep up. Same shit, okay? No problem. Start out with .ai, .xyz. I think these are great options. In fact, you're better off, right? Don't start off. Go see if your idea is worth fucking investing in. If somebody's willing to invest in your idea, maybe you're onto something. Take some of that money, get the .com, so you actually have a chance of winning. Otherwise,
well, and real quick, this reminds me of a quote that Rick Schwartz that I like to say. He says to buyers that give him a hard time about the price of the domain. He says, "Look, it's not that the price is too high; it's that your idea is too small." And if
Okay,
you are
it's so
truly
funny. The older I get, the more fucking time I spend in this business. The reality is, as abrasive as Rick can be, he is straight up honest. And he's right. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time he's right. I think he's wrong on this .ai thing. But the fact of the matter is that 99% of the time, Chris, tell me if I'm wrong. Somebody comes, oh, the price is too high. It's just like the actual correct answer is no, your business, your idea, your risk tolerance, you as a person are too small for this domain. That's it.
yeah, or the worldview's not there, but that's what we try to replace that worldview with the correct worldview. And then the question becomes like, I listen, there's 3 conversations in every one of my sales, right? It's like, what do you want to offer? Right. That's the gut feeling. What is it worth to you? And what do they want to sell it for? And if the ROI over a time horizon of 3 to 5 years is like higher than what they want to sell, then your only question is, how do I get this? How do I lock it in? Is it at least, but I
That right
think
there is all anybody needs to know about domains. Literally, those 3 questions. Ask yourself that. That's
well,
it.
and then there's 3 questions for the seller too. It's like It's like, what do you want to get, right? What's the market for this? And then what are they offering, right? It's like, hey, they're all,
Those,
you're pie in the sky. So it's a flip. Two things. I would say I really enjoy talking to Rick in Florida. And I have to say that huge appreciation for him, his knowledge, the way he thinks. And, I mean, one of the best comments he made is like, real buyers don't get upset. And I still remember that. It was like, listen, you can't piss off a real buyer.
It's off a real buyer.
And I'm like, yeah, because, there's sometimes when, you can kind of see they're not a real buyer. Like, that's not going to work. And then they come back with like this long, how could you say that? It's like, because you're not a buyer. Billy, take that rant that Drew just did to like be, that needs to be its own separate, Sherpa short. Because that was beautiful.
It's just so frustrating. How many times can we have the same conversation in this industry?
Well, okay, because
and it's just, but look, this is. I want to make an observation. This is not unique, okay, to the domain industry. Okay, you can see the same thing in crypto. Everybody who is small-minded believes that some new crypto coin is the next Bitcoin because it's better, it's faster, it's smarter, it's far. Okay, no problem. Waste your money. It's okay. In any 2-month period of time, you might think you were really smart because it went up faster or further than Bitcoin. Okay. Over the long term, you're going to lose your money. No problem.
Well,
So the observation I'm trying to make is that you can look at almost any industry, and the people that didn't think big enough, they didn't think it critically, they are always looking for the easy way, right? You can look at health and diet, right? The next new pill comes out. Well, we've already seen that pills can't help you, right? Taking a pill, taking an injection, like, comes with a price, right? Oh, you're going to lose fat. Yeah, but you're also going to be, I don't even know what's going to die. You're going to burn your freaking
it's
blindness
and muscle atrophy and some other things.
Whatever you're going to do, all the point is simple. It's everybody's always looking for the next easy way, right? And so it's okay. I want a domain. I was late to .com, or the .com's more than I want to spend. I think .xyz is great. I think .ai is great. I think .course is great. Okay, no problem, right? And you can't change most people's minds. They're only going to learn the hard way. And so, but it's frustrating. We see the same conversation over and over and over and over again, and everybody still gets fooled except for a handful of people that have done the work. They've done the work. They've spent the money. They've made sales. They've gone out and had the conversations. And they get it. If you look at the repeat founders that keep coming back to the trough and hitting home runs, what do? What do those guys do? They get the .com. Day one, before they even announced the launch of their company, they get the .com. Right? Maybe they're doing something right.
I think what you have.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
They must be lucky. They're just.
Here's what I say: like, every trend is unique, but it's always the same, right? So just like you said, Drew, it's like in this one, you have a lot of programmers, right? They're great, but they don't understand branding, right? And that's the difference. And so, I mean, you see, like, they have the .ai, but they don't have the .ai.com, right? No one types in .ai or .io or .org. They don't do the inverse, right? They're not like, hey, let's say it's like Transform, right? Broke on that one. They're not going to type in, oh, I wonder if it's Transform.ai. No, you always type in the .com. There's always a halo effect back to the .com. It's how the human mind works with ranking, right? There's like, we naturally rank, right? Human nature doesn't change. I would say in this trend, what's different is that you have lean into the trend, right? It's a trend. There's money coming in. And because everything was new, everyone's vying for positioning, right? But we're kind of at the point now where with positioning, if you're the first to market, you can gain traction with that .ai and those other things, right? You can gain some traction. The more saturated you go, once an industry is already established, and that position is already established, now you have to take a different approach, right? Because it's already established. You think of the established industries that are out there, right? And so AI, changed that because AI, everything was new. It's like, oh, this is AI. I've got this special feature, right? And then you get into it and you realize, well, that's not really that special, right? Or I can't really trust that feature. So I think that was the difference is you had companies trying to get that early share position with this new technology, this new way of doing things. But every trend is the same in a sense, right? It's like, okay, now the markets are established. Okay, now, how do you gain that? And because there's all these, all these new companies, it's oversaturated. I've heard out there like the bubble's going to crash at some point. There's so much money coming in, and they kind of all do the same thing, right? I mean, you look at like the lead generation, the CRM space, they're all kind of the same, you know?
No, I mean, you're right. And there are going to be winners. And then it's a question of, but how do you cut through the noise to even get to who ultimately will be the winner when these, a lot of, and if you've got a company that's competing with another company that's got the .com domain, right? And that's an even harder hill to climb.
I just come back to simplicity is rewarded with trust and, in conversion, right? Consumers and customers and clients reward simplicity. Confusion costs money. You can overcome that with a lot of money, but don't confuse yourself. It costs money.
Exactly.
So you're investing in one or the other.
If I can interject, I think I'm in a privileged position, or I was in a privileged position because working at Vodacom, I've seen this conversation happen over and over and over again. Throughout post-sales transactions. And I was in a privileged position in which I was talking to the brokers and I was talking to the investors and I was talking to the clients. And every single person was pretty much going around the same cycle of, like .com versus .ai versus .io. And I think that also doing the report or the data analysis at Vodacom myself, everyone was asking me, well, how are the AI sales looking like this year? How are the .com sales looking this year? And they always expected it to be different than the previous year. And that never happened. So further to that, I can't, obviously speak about specifics because, that's not allowed. But what I can say is that you can't expect this to continue changing. And there has been a lot of speculation. We've seen it with the IO, we've seen it with the AI. And at the beginning, the whole bubble that burst out was primarily speculation. Even the buyers themselves were coming back to escrow.com to purchase .com because they were like, oh, 6 months later, we've made a mistake. So that I can say. And I think that going over and over and over again about the same kind of conversation and on the same topics, and it's done. I mean, it's been said several times. And I think Chris has an incredible point in terms of your exact match. That is the most important thing of all from a customer perspective. If you don't get your exact match.com domain, you're going to be stranded because your customer is not going to be trusting your brand. They're not going to even care to find you. They do type the .com. They type your company name .com period, and they expect to find you. And if they don't, what's the point? Why do you even? What's the fucking point? That's it. So that's what I said.
No, that's good. And I think it echoes what we're saying. And I think you've got, some really unique insight because you've seen so many deals and you see it right there at the, where the pipe comes out, into the ocean, if you will. And
gets made.
You're safer.
And I think this is good timing.
You're safer leasing a .com because you don't have the budget right now. You're safer leasing that instead of just purchasing the .io or .ai or .me or .online or or whatever the fuck. And then just being oh, I should have bought the .com to begin with.
Let me make 2 points. First one is lean into the trend, right? There is a trend. There's money flowing, right? That money is not always going to flow. Look at the other trends in the industry, right? It's not always going to be there. And so, there was a lot of money flowing in, a lot of new companies created. They had to, to your Drew's point, have training wheels. As a domain investor, lean into it, right? But also know that this is a trend. And so, there's a peak.
Trends have an end.
When we get over that trend, the offers are not going to be as high. And I would say resale value as well. It's the .com continues to go up, right? Especially when there's like 5 different brands with that same keyword. They're going to grab, .com comes available. They've all raised a lot of money. They're going to want that. I don't think that goes back to their extensions, right? .me, .live, .earth, I mean, AI, is going to hold some value, but, that resale value, right? What is the asset here? I can tell you, because we get domains that companies went out of business, right? I mean, that goes up in value.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that brings up an
And they
interesting.
want that valuable position.
Yeah, Braden mentions it on the show a lot when he talks about pricing his domains. He has a lot of obviously really valuable one-word.coms and says, look, like at a minimum, he's like, I'm not worried about owning these assets as long as I have the cash flow because I know that they will retain their value. I can sell them for a lot more than I paid for them. And even if in a pinch, if I had to sell them for at the wholesale value, they're, because they continue to go up in value, they're worth more now than what I paid for them, a few years ago. So even if I had to fire sell them, and we know,
well, these other companies, they're not going to rebrand to the .ai once they have 10 years in, right? But they will do it to the .com, right? So like that's the difference, right? It's like, let's say it's something earth.com or .ai or whatever, right? They had to add 2 words in there. They will buy the .com and transition to that. I don't think that you're going to see that transition after they've launched. And so this is where it's like timing. Like if you missed, like if the best offer smacked you in the head, would you recognize it? And when you have glassy eyes, you pass, and then you come back and you're like, I mean, think of all the meta things, right? Think of all these different trends where they pass. Like, oh, do you understand? This is gonna be the biggest thing. And it's like, okay, there's no one offering on that now.
Yeah.
MediaOptions is the industry's leading domain broker specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. As pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value, plus through their clear domain acquisition service, MediaOptions offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. MediaOptions believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
No, it's good. All right. But we said this was a Sherpa short. It has turned into a Sherpa not so short, which is still all good.
Delete the first half, maybe.
Oh, we got through some really great.
Drew's rant. Start with Drew's rant.
It's good stuff, and these are good conversations. And I think there's a lot of important information. I mean, then there's a ton of valuable knowledge. So again, as always, thank you guys. Anybody else have any quick final parting shots before we call it here? Drew, I'll start with you. We'll go around the horn, and then we'll be out. And it can be none.
I don't know.
He's already, all of a sudden he's done.
He's already out. All right, Chris, what about you, man? I mean, I know
I'm not. I actually am happy to continue chatting. I don't know. I think I just wish everybody in the domain game would up their game a little. You know what I'm saying? Like, just stop being petty. Like, let's. I feel like we are truly blessed with the greatest industry on earth. I truly, I think about this all the time because, look, I could stop tomorrow and go do whatever I want. And every day I think about it, like the people I get to engage with, the flexibility that this business offers me, the rewards that this business offers me. If you put in the work and you spend the time being, thinking critically and trying to think differently than the herd. I truly believe it's the single greatest industry on earth. I don't think that you can find one that offers the cumulative package of benefits and rewards that domain names offer. And we're still in a growth curve, right? So perhaps even in the early stages, who knows? So I think that we all were just grateful that, if we recognize that and we were grateful for that, and we all made it our mission to make the industry a little bit better rather than tear it all down, I think we'd all be doing 10x better. And so anyways, that's my final reflection for today is,
okay, like it.
Build up instead of tear down.
I'd echo that. It's like, stay humble. Listen, no one cares about us out. There's a little bubble there. No one cares, truly no one cares. Like, stay humble, stay positive. What do you want? Hunt value, creating that.
All right. And Sofia?
You want me to say? I mean,
get that bag.
No, I mean, I think that as a personal note, the change is exciting. I
We're
think,
excited to have you.
of course you are. You love me. But the change is exciting. Why are you doing that to me?
No,
Um,
I'm with it. It's a win-win, you know.
JT's like, I love you too, Drew.
yeah, he got jealous there for a second.
It's all good.
No, I love change, and I think change is great. And I'm excited to help you even do better if that's even possible. But I think that having worked at Expo, I will say this. Again, as I said before, I think I'm in a privileged position in which I've seen both sides of the coin, and I think that there is a lot of untapped information there. Don't worry, your secrets are safe with me. Of course, there's a contract, but there's a lot of like I don't know, a lot of things that could be done better. But
It's an inefficient market. We're in an extremely inefficient market that we're not fully.
that's very true.
Yeah.
That is very true. I agree with you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
no, and I was just saying, like, we have plenty of stuff internally that we need to improve on in our systems, and plenty of stuff there and opportunities that we can take better advantage of.
Yeah.
And
No one company
there's
is
even stuff at
perfect.
at the space level, I think, that, there are plenty of opportunities for improvement. So,
Yeah. To be quite fair and to be quite honest with you, I think it's like the general thing as well. Like it's not just specific to this company or whatever. Um, and sometimes change brings change, and that's great. And that's I think my takeaway. I would say,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
What
no,
you
that's what's up. And and I think that's the other thing. That's where Sherpa is important. Some of the blogs, the podcasts, the conversations that happen, the chats, all these things. It's like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with holding people accountable. But I think the approach at times, and I think it's also hard sometimes when people are getting called out in spaces and things like, not even like Twitter, but like on Twitter, like with this thing with Shane, where, it's hard to have the kind of conversation that you really need to have. And I think that's probably indicative of a broader problem overall, because I think everything that happens in the town square is this like sort of mob mentality, and it just kind of gets crazy without like, true back and forth, to the extent that you even need to have a back and forth. But I do think that our space has opportunity to continue to grow and evolve in a positive way, that if everybody is positive towards that effort, we get there quicker. I think the work the ICA is doing,
Yeah.
like, for registrant rights and, for the companies involved. And I just think, and the value of domains keeps going up. The understanding of the value of domains on the part of founders and businesses keeps going up. And, I think that we're at a very interesting time. Things can go a lot of different directions, but I think it's important that, kind of to the point we're making, we're kind of all in it together. Rising tide lifts all boats. In the immortal words of Bill and Ted, we should be excellent to each other. And so on that note, I want to say thank you to Drew, Chris, and Sofia for being on the show today. Thank you guys so much. I mean, this all contributes towards what we're talking about. And to the audience, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. And without you, there is no us. So we'll keep doing what we're doing. In the meantime, hit us up. We are, taking feedback that we get from everybody, and, we try to implement that in our ways. We got some cool things coming up, some interesting things coming up. We've got portfolio reviews coming back, so we're going to post something shortly about submitting for that, which we talked about on the last show. I don't even think Drew realizes that we agreed to do this, because he probably didn't listen to the last show because he wasn't.
No,
he wasn't
I didn't.
on.
I listen. You can agree to, sell Girl Scout cookies, but
Hey, I love me some Girl Scout
Love
cookies.
me some-
All right. So, hey, on that note, we're going to get out of here. We're going to see everybody next time here on DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Be excellent to each other. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you all soon.